Welcome to a transcendental journey to the heart of personal and spiritual transformation. This is not just a book. It is a manual designed for those who seek to understand and manifest the true greatness that resides in their deepest being. Manual of Instructions for the New Adam is a work that connects the power of the human mind with the universal principles of creation taught by Emmet Fox, one of the greatest spiritual thinkers of our time. In this audiobook, you will be guided through the secrets that allow us to transcend the limitations of traditional thinking and awaken to the reality of our inherent divinity. Here you will learn how to reprogram your mind, how to act with the certainty that the power of creation is in your hands, and how to become the best version of yourself, a new Adam, connected to the infinite source of wisdom, love, and strength. This manual is not just a series of instructions, but an invitation to awaken to unlimited potential. Every word you will hear has the power to change the course of your life, guiding you towards a full existence, illuminated by the knowledge of your own divine power. Through the principles of the creative mind and a deep understanding of the human soul, this audiobook offers you the necessary tools to free yourself from the limitations of the past and embrace a future full of abundance, peace, and wisdom. Prepare to discover a new perspective, a new way of being, a new way of living. The new Adam has arrived, and that is you. We are living in times when the soul awakens, times when the old no longer sustains us and the new has yet to be named, times in which many men and women, without knowing how, feel deep within their being a call, not a noise, not a command, but a silent, intimate, unwavering call that invites them to remember who they truly are. And this call does not come from history, nor from tradition, nor from religious structures. It comes from the Spirit. It comes from the very center of their being, from the inner Christ who has waited patiently behind the masks, behind inherited beliefs, behind the persona we were taught to become. This book was born to answer that call. It is not written to convince anyone, nor to create followers, nor to feed theories. It is written as a clear and direct manual for those who have already recognized themselves as children of God and now need to learn how to live from that truth. It is not enough to know that we are divine. We must act as such. It is not enough to awaken. We must walk, choose, speak, think, and create from the new man, from the new Adam, the being who was not expelled from paradise but simply forgot that paradise was within, the being who does not carry original sin but forgotten potential, the being who did not come to suffer but to manifest the kingdom here and now. This is a practical book, not a theoretical one. Each chapter dismantles the false ideas that have upheld human limitation and offers concrete tools to restore divine order in your life. We will speak of the mind, the word, faith, forgiveness, abundance, service, and how every aspect of your existence can become a channel for the expression of spirit. This is not just another book. It is a key. If you take it with humility, with resolve, and with love, you will open doors that have always been within you. Because Christ does not come from the outside. Christ is revealed in you when you stop acting from fear and begin to live from the power God placed in your heart. This is your time. This is your manual. This is the beginning of the return. Instruction Manual for the New Adam. Live as the being God imagined. Based on the teachings of Emmet Fox, we've noticed that over 80% of those who visit our channel are not subscribed. You can support this project by clicking the subscribe button and giving the video a like. Thank you for inspiring us to keep creating more and better content for you. Are you ready to transform your life? Chapter 1. You are God's original plan. You are not a mistake. You were not cast into the world by accident. You did not arrive in this life by chance or biological randomness. You were imagined. You were thought of. You were desired by God. And that thought was not a fleeting impulse. It was a perfect, eternal, and deliberate conception within the infinite order of the universe. God does not improvise. Every spirit that has incarnated has done so for a defined reason. There is a purpose for every soul, a form of expression that no one else can fulfill, a chord that only you can play in the great symphony of being. This is not philosophy. This is not comfort, this is principle. In the mental and spiritual universe we inhabit, there are no leftover parts, no repetitions, no errors. Everything God creates follows a law, a design, a purpose. And yet for centuries humanity has been taught a degraded version of itself. They've been told they were born under the shadow of guilt, that their inheritance is sin, that their soul is stained before they even understand right from wrong. This doctrine has caused more damage than all the wars combined, because it planted a distorted image of man and his relationship with God into the collective subconscious. This false belief is what Jesus came to dissolve. He did not come to redeem a historical sin, but to awaken us to the eternal truth. We are children of God, whole, worthy heirs of the kingdom from the beginning. It is time for you, conscious reader, to begin seeing yourself as God sees you. Not through your apparent flaws, not through your family story, not through your failures or wounds, but through your essence. And your essence is divine. This is not an opinion, it is a spiritual law. If you could observe the divine mind for even a moment, you would see that within it there is a perfect idea bearing your name. That idea contains your gifts, your calling, your unique way of expressing good. It does not resemble anyone else's. It is not a copy. It is not an imitation. It is not based on comparison. And the most amazing part is the entire universe has been aligned to help you fulfill it. But that help does not activate until you recognize it. That is the essence of free will. You can align with the plan or you can ignore it, but you cannot alter its perfection. Have you ever felt out of place? Have you thought you don't know your purpose? And have you asked why, if God is love, life sometimes seems so hard? All of that happens when the original design has been forgotten. Not because God abandoned you, but because you stopped remembering. But now you are here reading these words, and that means something in you has awakened. It means you are ready to live from the center, not the edges. God's original plan for you is not a distant destiny. It is a state of consciousness you can step into right now. You don't have to wait. The design is already complete. You only need to recognize it, accept it, affirm it, and act from it. That requires mental discipline, yes, but more than that, it requires a new concept of self. You are not your body. You are not your emotions. You are not your memories. All of that changes. All of that is temporary. You are the thinker who thinks, the spirit who chooses, the living idea of God manifesting in individual form. And if that is true, then nothing in you is broken. There may be confusion, yes. There may be temporary ignorance, yes. But there is no fracture in your essential being. What you are does not need to be fixed. It only needs to be recognized. Let me illustrate it with a parable. A man walked for years with a gold coin in his pocket without knowing it. He lived in anguish, begged for bread, feared for his future. One day, by accident, he reached into his pocket and found the gold. Nothing in his external situation had changed yet, but in that moment, his life changed completely. He was no longer a beggar. He was someone who possessed wealth. The gold had always been there, but it could not act until he knew it. So it is with your spiritual identity. It is already within you. You don't need to look for your purpose. You need to discover it within. Purpose is not something the world gives to you. It is something you offer to the world when you remember who you are. Stop asking, "What does God want from me?" as if you were a slave waiting for instructions. God wants nothing from you. God wants to express through you. God wants to be you in action. And to do that, you must begin by accepting your true origin. You do not come from dust, you come from mind. You do not come from sin, you come from principle. You are not the product of a fall, but of a divine intention. From today on, stop saying, "I don't know what to do with my life," because that is not true. Deep down, you already know. What's happening is you're waiting for an external map, but the original blueprint is not found outside. It is revealed within. It feels like an unexplainable certainty, like a joy that does not depend on others, like a pull towards something that makes no sense but is full of truth. Your task now is to stop thinking like someone thrown into the world without guidance. You are guided, you are supported. You are part of a perfect intelligence that makes no mistakes. And if you remember that, everything in your life will begin to fall into place. Relationships will shift, work will align, health will be restored. Not because you fight for it, but because you have returned to center. Because you have aligned with your design, do not try to copy anyone's path. Your plan is unique. Another's light can inspire you, but it can never replace your own. God does not repeat molds. Each soul is a new note in the symphony of existence. When you do not take your place, that note falls silent, and the whole universe feels it. You are God's original plan, not the plan B, not a trial run, not an exception. You are the perfect and eternal plan. Recognize it, affirm it, live from it. Practical exercise declaration of origin. For the next 7 days, at the start of each day, sit in silence and repeat with conviction these words. I am a perfect idea in the mind of God. I am not a coincidence. I am not a mistake. I'm a deliberate expression of love, wisdom, and power. I'm here to fulfill my divine design, and I fulfill it. Also write this declaration on a piece of paper and place it somewhere visible each morning. Do not repeat it like a hollow formula. Feel it. Live it. Let each word penetrate to the depths of your mind. Because when you believe it, you manifest it. When you live it, the plan is activated. And then everything begins to align, because the universe always responds to the one who remembers who they are. Chapter 2. The mind is God's workshop. Every visible manifestation, every external event, every object, relationship, circumstance, or outcome you experience in your life is, in essence, an idea. Before anything exists in the physical world, it first exists in the mental world. This is law, and where there is law, there is no chance. What you call reality is nothing more than condensed thought. Your mind is the place where everything begins. It is the invisible workshop where every experience is shaped, designed, and imprinted before it becomes life as you know it. In that workshop, two distinct yet complementary workers are at play, the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. One gives the command, the other carries it out. One chooses, the other multiplies. One sows, the other reaps. If you do not understand this dynamic, you will live as if life is simply happening to you. But when you recognize it, you stop being a victim of the world and become the conscious creator of your existence. The conscious mind is the gatekeeper. It is the part of you that thinks, reasons, chooses, affirms, and imagines. It is limited in power, but unlimited in potential. Every time you repeat an idea, every time you feel something deeply, every time you accept an image as true, that idea passes to the subconscious and is planted there. The subconscious mind does not choose, question, or evaluate. It only accepts and produces. Plant a belief in it, whether true or false, helpful or harmful, and it will multiply it until you see it as fact. This means that if your subconscious holds an image of lack, you will experience financial struggle, limited opportunities, and fear of the future. If the image is of illness, your body will respond with symptoms. If the image is of abandonment, it will attract disharmonious relationships. The subconscious mind is like soil. It does not decide which seeds grow. It simply responds to the sower. And you are that sower. There are no exceptions. So how is life transformed? By changing the mental pattern, by building what we call a mental equivalent of the good you desire. A mental equivalent is a clear, consistent, and positive image of the reality you wish to see manifested, held with faith, emotion, and repetition. It's not about wishing strongly, it's about establishing a new thought structure that replaces the old one. For example, if you desire health, you must build a firm image in your mind of a harmonious, strong, vibrant body. It is not enough to deny illness. You must affirm health. If you desire love, you must visualize yourself being loved, at peace, sharing harmony. If you desire prosperity, you must think, speak, and act like someone who already lives in abundance. Because the mind does not respond to what you say you want, it responds to what you believe you already are. This is why so many pray without results. They cry out to God for health, yet maintain in their minds an image of weakness. They ask for prosperity, yet expect lack. They declare love, yet fear being hurt. Prayer is not a plea, it is a creative act, and its raw material is the mental image. Imagine for a moment that life is like a heavenly printing press. You submit the mental mold, and the universe prints copies. What mold have you submitted? What image is being repeated in your thoughts? That is the reality you live. You do not need to know how the change will occur. The how belongs to God. Your part is the what you wish to see. What are you willing to accept as true? What image are you willing to sustain until it becomes real? Jesus said, "According to your faith be it done unto you." He didn't say according to your effort, your anxiety, or your sacrifice. He said according to your faith. And in this context, faith is nothing more than a belief sustained over time with emotional certainty. This is why it is so important to watch your thoughts, your words, your reactions. Every time you accept an idea of lack, of evil, of limitation, you are planting a seed. You may not see the fruit immediately, but it will come. It always does. It is not punishment, it is law. The law does not sleep. The law does not fail. The law fulfills. If you want to change your world, you must change your mind. And that requires discipline, consistency, and practice. A casual affirmation is not enough. Reading this book is not enough. You must commit to thinking differently, to holding the image of good even when appearances contradict it, to making your mind a true, sacred workshop. Remember this, every thought is a command, every emotion an impulse, every word a decree, and each one builds the house you will live in tomorrow. Do you want health? Think health. And do you want peace? Affirm peace. Do you want prosperity? Act like one who is already prosperous. The workshop never closes. Even as you sleep, your mind continues its shaping. That's why it is vital to guard what you allow into it. Some may ask, but isn't this denying reality? No, it is affirming truth above appearance. Reality is what you see today. Truth is what lies behind it, what God intended when He created you. And truth always holds higher power. When you affirm health amid pain, you are not denying the body. You are affirming your spiritual right. When you affirm abundance while paying off debt, you are not ignoring your finances. You are choosing a new pattern. The mind is God's workshop because it is the place where divine idea takes form in you. And if you learn to use it correctly, you will find that no obstacle is insurmountable, no illness incurable, no situation unchangeable. Everything is subject to thought because everything is thought made form. If you have lived in fear, guilt, or insecurity until now, it doesn't matter. From today, you can begin building a new pattern. It doesn't matter how long you've lived under a limited image. Truth does not need time to act, it needs acceptance, and you can accept it now. Practical exercise. Build your mental equivalent. Choose an aspect of your life you wish to transform. Health, relationships, work, finances, inner peace. Write in detail what that reality looks and feels like, as if it already exists. Use affirmative present tense. I enjoy perfect health. I live in harmony with my surroundings. My finances flow freely. Close your eyes and visualize that scene for at least 5 minutes a day. Feel that it already is. Don't ask for it to happen. Live as if it already has. Do not share this exercise with those not in this consciousness. Protect it like a seed. Practice it daily without anxiety. The image will grow, and when the pattern is complete in your mind, it will appear in your world. That's how the workshop works. That's how God manifests through you. Chapter 3. Live from the inner Christ. When people speak of Christ, most think of a historical figure. They think of Jesus of Nazareth, his life, his teachings, his miracles. And without a doubt, Jesus was the greatest example of conscious spiritual life the world has ever known. But to reduce the concept of Christ to a single man is to miss its deepest essence. Christ is not a person. Christ is a state of consciousness. It is the presence of God within you, the true self, the eternal and impersonal principle that dwells in every human being, beyond names, cultures, or religions. Christ is your true identity. There is no other reality outside of the Christ that lives within you. Everything else, your personality, your character, your emotions, your mistakes, is temporary. It is the shell, not the fruit. It is the shadow, not the light. The only part of you that does not change with time, that does not depend on circumstances, that does not need to defend itself, that does not fear, doubt, or fight, is the Christ. When you say, "I am," with purity, without conditions, without adjectives, you are speaking from that place. The eternal Christ is not a part of you. It is what you are when you stop pretending to be something else. But this Christ, this center of wisdom, love, and power, needs to be recognized and obeyed in order to be made manifest. It does not impose, it does not shout, it does not grow impatient. It is always present but waits to be imitated. Its voice is gentle, clear, without urgency. Its guidance is never confusing and needs no explanation. When the Christ speaks in you, you know it, because what it says brings peace. And what comes from God always brings peace, even when it challenges you. Most people live guided by what is not the Christ. They live from fear, from human logic, from social conditioning, from comparison with others. They live trying to please others, seeking approval, avoiding mistakes, and thus drift further and further from their center. They listen to so many voices that they can no longer hear the only one that truly matters. But you are no longer in that place. If you've reached this point in the book, it's because you've chosen to return to the source. Living from the inner Christ is not about adopting a mystical posture. It is about acting from inner certainty. It is deciding from peace. It is responding with love even when the ego wants to attack. It is keeping silent when pride wants to speak. It is doing what is right, even when the world criticizes it. It is trusting when the external mind says, "It can't be done." It is knowing you are not alone, not weak, not lost. The Christ within you does not need to be defended. It only needs to be remembered. And how is it remembered? By returning to the center, quieting the mind, affirming the truth, ceasing to react from habit, and beginning to respond from consciousness. Every moment is an opportunity to act from the Christ or from the ego. One builds, the other divides. One heals, the other wounds. One knows, the other doubts. Think about this. When Jesus said, "I am the light of the world," he wasn't speaking of his personality. He was speaking of the Christ principle within him. And that same Christ dwells in you. That is why he also said, "The works I do you shall do also, and greater works than these." That is not exaggeration. That is spiritual law. Christ is not exclusive. It is universal. It is in you as it was in him. The only difference is that he knew it fully. You are learning to remember. Every time you choose love over fear, you are living from the Christ. Every time you truly forgive, you are obeying the Christ. Every time you hold a vision of good, even when everything seems to fall apart, you are manifesting the Christ. You do not need rituals, temples, or titles. Your body is the temple, your mind is the altar, your word is the decree. There is where the Christ lives and expresses itself in you. Pause now and ask yourself, am I living from my inner Christ or from my ego? Do not rush. Feel the answer. The ego justifies itself, defends, agitates. The Christ simply knows, it needs no argument. Know this, when you learn to consult with the Christ first, before you act, before you speak, before you decide, your life will become extraordinarily simple. Not because you won't face challenges, but because you will know you are not facing them alone. You will know there is a higher guidance, precise and constant, that never errs. And that guide is your highest self. The Christ in you does not fear the future. It does not need to control anyone. It does not feel threatened. It does not fall into anxiety or despair. It lives in the eternal present. It knows all is in its place. It knows everything serves a greater purpose. That's why one who lives from the Christ is serene, not because they don't feel, but because they choose not to identify with external chaos. They choose to see with the eyes of truth. Remember, you are not called to become the Christ. You are called to stop pretending you are not. That's all. Spiritual awakening is not a conquest. It is a recognition. Goodness is already in you. Power is already in you. Light is already in you. All that's needed is that you stop blocking it with false thoughts, reactive emotions, hollow words, and inherited fears. When you live from the Christ, you will begin to see others from the Christ as well. You will no longer judge by appearances. You will no longer be easily offended. You will no longer live as someone seeking love because you will know you are love. And when you know that, everything else falls into place. Practical exercise, dialogue with the inner Christ. Choose a moment in the day to be in silence. Turn off all external noise. Sit comfortably. Close your eyes. Breathe deeply. Place your attention in the center of your chest. Don't imagine anything. Just bring your awareness there. In a low voice say, Christ in me, guide my mind. Christ in me, speak through me. Christ in me, act in my life. Christ in me, I recognize you. And then be still, don't think. Don't wait for a voice, just feel. Remain like this for a few minutes. During the day, whenever in doubt, silently ask, Christ in me, what should I do? And act from the peace that follows that question. Do this every day. The Christ is not far. The Christ already is. It simply waits for you to let it live in you, not to remove you from the world, but to transfigure the world through your awakened consciousness. That is your true mission. Live from the Christ and you will never be lost again. Chapter 4. Spiritual Authority and Dominion. The new Adam does not ask for permission to exist. He does not beg favors from the universe. He does not plead for what already belongs to him by divine right. The new Adam decrees because he knows his word is power in action. He knows he was made in the image and likeness of the Creator, and that this likeness is not poetic ornament. It is a statement of metaphysical law. Man creates as God creates, through thought and word. Everything God has done, he has done through his word, and God said, let there be light. And there was light. That formula is not history. It is the structure of reality. What is spoken with authority and upheld with faith becomes manifest. The word is not just a means of expression. It is an instrument of creation. That is why the new Adam does not merely observe the world. He commands it. Many pray like slaves, begging, groaning, pleading, saying to God, please give me health, as if he withholds it. Oh, help me in this hardship, as if help were a favor granted at times and denied at others. But that is not true prayer. That is emotional superstition. The prayer of the new Adam does not implore. It declares, affirms, commands, not out of arrogance, but because he has recognized the truth. What belongs to God belongs also to him. And God is fullness, is health, is wisdom, is love, is provision. Therefore, the child of God does not need to convince the Father, but to convince his own mind that he is already worthy, already capable, already complete. All the kingdom asks is recognition. Do you want to change your world? Stop describing it and begin to govern it. Poverty, illness, loneliness, and frustration are not dissolved by weeping over them. They are dissolved by removing their authority and affirming truth in their place. Every time you mentally repeat, "This is impossible," you are decreeing. Every time you say, "This hurts," you are decreeing. Every time you define yourself through weakness, you are establishing a law for your world. But you can change the decree. You can say, "I am the health of God made manifest now." You can say, "Divine supply flows to me without resistance." You can say, "I am guided step by infinite wisdom." And in doing so, you begin to reorder the invisible structures of your life. Thought is the cause. The word activates it. Faith sustains it. And the result manifests. Spiritual authority is not arrogance, it is inner order. It is living from the principle that all the power you need is already within you. You don't have to seek it, you only have to let it out. Spiritual dominion is not external control. It is not about imposing your will on others. It is about mastering yourself, your mind, your emotions, your habits. It is knowing when to speak and when to be silent, when to act and when to be still. It is becoming the center of authority within your own consciousness. And that authority begins with the Word, for the Word is the bridge between thought and form. What is spoken with conviction will sooner or later appear in your life. That is why it is so important to learn to speak only from truth. Never declare what you do not wish to see. Never use your word to reinforce evil. Do not say, "This always happens to me. I'm never lucky. That's just how I am." Because every phrase is a seed, and the universe does not distinguish between joke and decree. It responds to what you believe as you say it. You were created to command, not to beg. You were designed to establish the kingdom of God in your life, not to observe chaos and comment on it. That is why affirmative prayer is your central tool. To pray affirmatively is to think from the solution, not from the problem. It is to declare what is true on the spiritual plane, even if it is not yet visible in the material plane. For example, if you face financial difficulty, the human mind will say, "I am lacking. I need help." But the Christ mind will say, "God is my source, and I lack nothing." If you are going through illness, the ego will say, "I am sick. When will I be healed?" But spiritual authority says, "The life of God flows through every cell of my body. I am health now." Not because you deny reality, but because you affirm the truth that transforms it. And how do you know if you are using your authority correctly? By the fruit. A word spoken from the Christ within brings peace. A word spoken from ego brings fear or division. Every true affirmation heals. Every false affirmation complicates. It is also essential to understand that dominion is not struggle, not friction, not shouting. It is inner certainty. A man who shouts has no authority. He has anxiety. But a man who calmly says, "This is resolved now in divine harmony," and feels it and holds to it, that man governs his world. The new Adam does not wait for the external to change in order to feel safe. He changes his internal state, and then the external responds. He lives from the inside out. He acts from mental law. He does not place his faith in facts, but in principle, and the principle never fails. You can begin now. You don't need titles. You don't need degrees. You only need to decide that you will no longer speak from lack, that you will no longer think like a spiritual beggar, that every word from your mouth will be an expression of good, that if you cannot affirm, you will at least remain silent, for silence, too, is dominion. Practical exercise, establishing the kingdom with the word. Write 3 affirmations representing the good you wish to see in your life. 1 for your body, 1 for your relationships, and 1 for your finances. For example, divine wisdom guides my every step. Perfect love surrounds me and expresses through me. My provision comes from God and arrives in perfect abundance. For the next 7 days, repeat these affirmations each morning and night with a firm and calm voice. Do not speak them mechanically. Feel them as already fulfilled. Whenever you notice a contrary thought during the day, don't argue with it. Simply stop and mentally repeat one of your affirmations. Observe subtle changes. Do not expect fireworks. Expect harmony, order, openness, peace. That is where spiritual authority begins to act. The world bows before the one who knows their truth and declares it with love. You were created to command, not to fear. Believe and it shall be done. Chapter 5. Eliminate the illusion of evil. What the average person calls evil is not a force, not an entity, not an active presence opposed to God. It has no substance, no intelligence, no power of its own. What we call evil is a false belief held by the human mind. And like all beliefs, it produces effects as long as it is sustained. But as soon as it is denied and the truth is affirmed in its place, it vanishes like a shadow before the light. This is one of the most radical yet most liberating principles of spiritual truth. Evil has no real power. It only seems to have it as long as you grant it. It is like a figure projected onto a wall. It may appear large, it may appear threatening, but if you look behind it, you will see that there is nothing but a harmless shape, distorted by misplaced light. Evil is appearance, never substance. Jesus taught this truth consistently. He never acknowledged evil as authority. He never tried to fight it. He ignored it or transformed it. When he faced disease, he didn't ask for causes. He declared health. When he faced death, he affirmed life. When he saw sin, he offered forgiveness and transformation. His judgment was not from the senses, but from principle. That is what it means to judge with righteous judgment, not accepting appearance as truth, but affirming truth above all appearance. Disease is nothing more than a form of disordered thinking manifesting in the body. Scarcity is merely a belief in separation from the source. Conflict is the reflection of a divided mind. And all these conditions, no matter how real they seem, can be transformed as soon as the mind that sustains them changes its pattern. There are those who are offended when they hear that evil is not real. How can you say that? They ask. Look at the suffering, the crimes, the wars. But this is not about denying suffering. It is about understanding its cause. Pain exists, yes, limitations exist, but they are not the result of divine will, nor punishment, nor destiny. They are the result of a mental law operating from false beliefs. And if those beliefs change, the effects change too. God is absolute good. If evil were real in the sense of having its own existence, then God would have to be its creator. But that would contradict principle. It would imply that God creates suffering, confusion, and misery. And that is impossible. What God is not cannot be created. Therefore, evil cannot have independent existence. It can only live as mental illusion. It can only operate as a temporary shadow until dissolved by light. This is the path of the new Adam. Stop fighting evil and start denying its reality with spiritual authority. Stop feeding what you do not want to exist with thoughts, words, or emotions. Because every time you speak of evil, discuss it, fear it, or analyze it, you are sustaining it, confirming it, giving it substance in your world. Remember, the mind is God's workshop. What you think, you create. What you hold manifests. What you fear, you attract. So if you want to eliminate evil, start by denying its space in your consciousness. Do not ignore it emotionally. Deny it mentally, then affirm its opposite. If illness appears, do not say, I am sick. Say, God's life flows through me. I am whole. If lack appears, do not say, there is no money. Say, divine supply sustains me. All I need comes to me. If conflict appears, do not say, this is a problem. Say, divine harmony governs this situation. Do not wait to feel it before affirming it. Affirm it until you feel it, because affirmation is seed and feeling is fruit. This is not blind denial. It is applied spiritual knowledge with power. It is the difference between someone who sees a storm and screams and someone who sees a storm and says, peace, be still, as the Master did. Peace was not the visible condition. It was the truth beyond appearance. But it was enough to affirm the truth for the appearance to change. This is how you must act, not as someone waiting for evil to vanish on its own, but as a spiritual authority who knows evil has no foundation and dissolves it by affirming the good. Make a personal inventory. How much space does evil occupy in your daily thoughts? How often do you talk about what is wrong, what is missing, what hurts? How much mental energy do you spend analyzing what you don't want? That is modern idolatry. Evil becomes an idol when it is feared, studied, respected. But you were not created to bow to shadows. You were created to manifest light. Jesus never called evil real. He never explained it, never justified it. He only corrected it. That is what you must do. Correct your thinking, and you will see your world change. Not because the world changes first, but because you stop creating what you do not want to see. All power lies in recognition. If you recognize good as the only force, the only substance, the only presence, evil cannot sustain itself in your experience. It will fall like a veil when the curtain is drawn and light enters. Practical exercise. Deny the illusion and affirm the truth. Think of a specific situation that seems to show evil, disease, conflict, lack, fear. Write it down in a simple sentence as your mind sees it. Example, I am alone, I don't have enough. I'm afraid of losing, my body hurts. Cross out that sentence. Then write below its equivalent in spiritual truth. Example, God's perfect companionship surrounds me. Divine supply is inexhaustible. God sustains me at every moment. Perfect health flows through every part of me. Repeat that affirmation with authority 3 times in a row, at least twice a day. Every time the negative thought returns, don't argue with it. Just mentally repeat the affirmation. Deny the illusion, affirm the truth. Do not be deceived by shadows. Evil has no root in God. And if it has no root in God, it has no root in you. Good is your only reality, and as soon as you remember it, it begins to manifest. Chapter 6. The mental law is always active. In God's universe there are no dead moments, no empty spaces, no thoughts without consequence. The mental law is operating in you and through you every second of your life. From the moment you opened your eyes this morning until this very instant, as you read these lines, every thought you've held has planted a cause, and that cause is producing an effect, whether you like it or not. The law doesn't stop. The law isn't suspended by distraction, ignorance, or good intentions. It is perpetual, exact, automatic. The mental universe we live in is a system of correspondences. You think, and what you think manifests. Maybe not immediately, but it always manifests. What does not appear today will appear tomorrow. What appears today is the result of yesterday's thoughts. Everything around you, everything you call my life, is nothing but the echo of your most intimate ideas. The law does not reward or punish, it reflects. The law does not argue, it obeys. The mental law acts with a precision greater than gravity, more constant than time. This principle, far from being a cause for fear, is your greatest hope, because it tells you that nothing in your life is beyond your sphere of action. It tells you that you are not at the mercy of chance, of fate, or of other people. It tells you that you have the power and therefore the responsibility to establish the causes of your future experience. It doesn't matter what you inherited, what happened, or what you lost. The mental law responds to what you think now. Creation is not a past event, it is a current process. Every person who begins to live spiritually awake must understand this deeply. Every sustained thought is a seed, and every seed germinates. Just as a farmer tends to his field, you must tend to your mind, not out of fear, but out of order, not to avoid evil, but to build good. Now then, what does it mean that there are no neutral moments? It means that even when you believe you are not thinking, you are sustaining a mental vibration. Even inner silence produces an effect. Discouragement, resignation, silent complaint. These are forms of thought that nourish negative conditions. It is not enough to simply avoid wrongdoing. You must think good, affirm good, sustain good. Because the mental law is not like a machine you switch on and off. It is more like a field that never sleeps. If you do not plant deliberately, whatever the wind brings will grow, and that is rarely good. You are solely responsible for what you allow to dwell in your mind. No one else. Not your family, not your circumstances, not your past experiences. Spiritual responsibility is not about blaming yourself for what you've lived. It's about taking authority now to produce what you desire to live. Complaint is the language of the unconscious. It is how the sleeping mind renounces its creative power. Complaining is not a harmless catharsis. It is a destructive creative act. Every time you complain, you are reaffirming an idea of evil. You are feeding the very condition you supposedly want to change, and therefore you are perpetuating it. A spiritually mature person stops complaining not because they ignore the problem, but because they know the solution begins with thought. They don't say, "This is unbearable," but "This situation changes now by the power of God in me." They don't say, "I can't take it anymore," but "The energy of God sustains me and guides me in all things." They don't say, "This always happens to me," but "From today, my life aligns with truth," because they know every word is a seed, and every complaint is a mental poison that contaminates the soil of their world. It's time to ask yourself, what ideas are you repeating inside without realizing? What phrases arise in your mind when you face difficulty? What beliefs do you hold about yourself, about life, about others? Do you believe money is hard to get, that health is fragile, that love brings suffering, that time is never enough? Even if you don't say these things out loud, they are shaping your experience. You don't need to become a perfect thinker to change your world, but you do need to become deliberate. You must observe what you think and direct it. Just as a gardener pulls out weeds without hatred, you must eliminate negative thought without drama. and plant instead thoughts that reflect your divine inheritance. You don't have to wait years to see results. The first change happens within you, and it is immediate. It is the peace that comes when you realize you are no longer at the mercy of conditions. Then, step by step, the outer effects will begin to reflect this new inner climate. The law cannot fail. It only waits for your decision. Live each day as if your mind were a sacred temple, a creative laboratory, a fertile field. Do not allow borrowed ideas, automatic judgments, or foreign fears to settle there. Do not think about what you do not wish to live. Do not speak of what you do not wish to perpetuate. Do not feel as real what you know is only appearance. From today on, every thought must be evaluated. Does it bring me closer to my truth or further away? Is it a seed of harmony or of conflict? Does it represent the idea of God or the old illusion of the ego? And if the answer is not clear, choose silence, because even silence, when full of awareness, is better than an empty word. Practical exercise, 24-hour mental vigilance. For a full day, do the following exercise. Upon waking, decide that today you will live as a conscious creator. Carry a small notebook or card. Every time you catch yourself thinking or saying something negative, limiting, or complaining, even as a joke, write it down. Don't judge yourself, just record it. Immediately afterward, write a truthful and opposite affirmation. Example, thought, I never have enough money. Affirmation, God's supply is abundant and constant in my life. Thought, I'm tired of everything. Affirmation, the energy of God renews me right now. At the end of the day, review your list, not to punish yourself, but to observe your dominant pattern. Repeat the exercise once a week for a month. You'll see your mind start to train like a muscle, and when thought is ordered, everything else follows. This is how the mental law works, and this is how the kingdom is built. And this is how your true freedom begins. Chapter 7. Intelligent faith transforms everything. Faith is not a feeling, not an emotion, not a fleeting outpouring that comes and goes with circumstances. True faith, the faith that transforms, is a deep certainty that rests on principle, not appearances. It is an inner knowing that does not rely on evidence, immediate results, or the approval of others. Spiritual faith is higher intelligence operating in the human mind. It does not ask for permission, wait for confirmation, or get disturbed by what seems to be, because it stands firmly on what is. Many confuse faith with hope, but they are not the same. Hope looks to the future. Faith acts in the present. Hope says, I wish it happens. Faith says it is already done. Hope rolls along, faith declares. Hope secretly doubts. Faith silently knows, and that's why Jesus never said, wait and you'll see. He said, let it be done unto you according to your faith. He said, believe that you have already received it, and it will be yours. In those words there is no expectation, there is authority. There is inner fulfillment preceding manifestation. So how is this intelligent faith cultivated? This faith that does not bend with the wind, that doesn't tire with delays, that doesn't need applause or signs. It is cultivated like any higher faculty, through conscious use, deliberate practice, and constant decision. Faith is a tool to be trained. It is not born in perfect form. It grows stronger every time you choose to believe in good, even when everything around you screams the opposite. Faith begins as a thought, then it becomes an attitude, then an action, and finally it manifests as experience. This is its natural progression, but many make the mistake of waiting to feel faith before they act. They wait for their minds to calm, for external facts to shift, for everything to line up, and meanwhile they postpone their power. Intelligent faith does not wait. You can decide right now to trust, not because you see reasons, but because you know principle is at work. You can affirm, I know this is already resolved. Even if you don't yet see how, you can say, God has already provided all that's needed, even if my eyes don't see it yet. You can declare this situation is being ordered by divine wisdom which always guides me. And in doing so, you are applying faith as an active instrument of transformation. It is not necessary to feel an internal euphoria. What matters is not surrendering to doubt. Do not let the limited, time-bound human mind undermine what your being has already affirmed. Doubt is not lack of intelligence. It is a form of disguised mistrust. Doubt analyzes, compares, calculates, and eventually paralyzes. Faith, on the other hand, chooses, affirms, acts. Think of this. You've seen a bird fly with no map, a seed sprout with no external help, a wound heal on its own. That same intelligence upholding the universe is within you. It doesn't need to be understood. It just needs to be allowed to act without interference. And that non-interference is called faith. Faith is not forcing a result. It is allowing the right result to unfold without inner resistance. Intelligent faith also acts as if it already is. This is one of the most powerful secrets of Christ consciousness. If you wish to manifest health, begin acting as one who is already healthy. Think health. Speak health. Give thanks for health. If you desire prosperity, stop speaking of lack, stop comparing, stop counting coins. Walk with dignity. Affirm your provision. Act with confidence, not to deceive anyone, but to affirm the inner state you wish to establish as real. The mental law does not respond to your scattered words, but to your dominant climate. You can say, I am prosperous 1,000 times a day, but if inside you feel limited, fearful, lacking, the law will respond to that feeling. That's why faith cannot be a surface act. It must be a sustained conviction. And to sustain it, you must feed it with constant affirmations, with meditative silence, with vigilance over your thoughts and emotions. Do not worry if your faith seems weak at first. Everyone starts that way. But every time you choose to affirm it instead of complaining, you are strengthening it. Every time you declare good when everything seems dark, you are lighting the way. Every time you act as one who has already received, you are opening the door to manifestation. Faith does not need to be perfect to produce results. It only needs to be sincere, sustained, and active. Look at how intelligent faith operates in daily life. A merchant faces a tough season. Instead of saying, business is bad, he affirms each morning, God is my invisible partner. This business prospers by his intelligence acting through me. He is not deluding himself. He is aligning. A mother sees her child ill. Instead of despairing, she puts her faith in action and says, God's perfect health is expressed in my child. Nothing can oppose the good. She does not deny the pain, she affirms the truth that surpasses it. An unemployed man affirms that the perfect opportunity already exists and is seeking me. I receive it with gratitude. And in the meantime, he acts as one who already deserves it. This is how faith works, not as an emotional crutch, but as a continuous affirmation of divine order, even when the senses say otherwise. Practical exercise, sustained faith training. Choose a situation that currently challenges you. Write it in one clear sentence. Example, I'm waiting for an income that hasn't arrived. Write below its spiritual equivalent, as if it is already resolved. Example, divine supply flows to me now freely and without delay. For 7 days, repeat this affirmation 3 times a day in a clear voice, with pause and awareness. Then act each day as if you have already received the solution. Don't dramatize, don't explain, just act from certainty. Write down in a notebook any sign of change, however small it may seem. This exercise trains your mind to operate from faith as a stable state of consciousness. By repeating, feeling, and acting from already realized good, you prepare the ground for the mental law to materialize what your spirit has already affirmed. Intelligent faith does not wait. It declares, and what it declares manifests. Chapter 8. Forgiveness is the key to power. Forgiveness is one of the most powerful tools the human soul has to restore its union with the good. It is not weakness, not surrender, not forced forgetting. It is spiritual power in action. It is a profound act of inner intelligence that undoes the invisible chains binding your energy to the past. It is a mental cleansing operation that allows life to flow again in its natural course. Many believe that forgiving is doing the other person a favor, but forgiveness is never for the other. The other may have disappeared, may be unaware, or may not care. Forgiveness is for you because you are the one who has remained tied to that experience through judgment, pain, anger, or resentment. And as long as you keep that bond in your mind, you will keep recreating in your world the conditions that stem from it. Forgiving is not justifying, not saying it was right, not denying that something was unjust or painful. It is freeing yourself from the need to carry that burden, to keep mentally replaying the scene, to keep identifying as a victim. Until you forgive, you are bound to the offender. You are connected to them by an invisible cord of energy that consumes your peace, pollutes your thinking, and blocks the flow of good in your life. The mental law does not distinguish between what you love and what you hate. It only knows that you are thinking intensely about something and therefore keeps it alive in your vibrational field. Every time you remember the offense, every time you analyze what you should have said or done, you are feeding that energy, recreating that scene, sowing more of the same. And that is not punishment, it is the natural consequence of the law. What you think returns to you. That is why forgiveness is not optional. It is not a spiritual suggestion for those who want to be good. It is a mental necessity for anyone who wishes to be free. Resentment is a poison that only harms you. A mind that holds resentment is disturbed, fragmented, distracted. It cannot sustain the vision of good while insisting on keeping the memory of evil. And where there is no vision of good, there can be no manifestation of good. Jesus was clear. If you do not forgive, your Father cannot forgive you. This does not mean God withholds his love. It means you cannot receive what you are unwilling to give. A mind closed by hatred is also closed to grace. It is not punishment. It is spiritual logic. What you give is what you can sustain, and if you do not give forgiveness, you cannot live in a state of forgiveness, the state where good flows unhindered. Forgiveness is not emotional. You don't have to feel like you forgive. You just have to decide and affirm it. If you wait to feel better to forgive, you will probably never do it. But if you start mentally affirming, I forgive you and I free myself, even without emotion, the energy begins to move, the mind starts to release, the heart reorders, and one day, without knowing how, the pain is gone because you cut it at its root in the mind. It is also vital to understand that often the most urgent forgiveness is not toward another, but toward yourself. Because there are mistakes you still carry as a burden, past decisions you judge harshly, stages of your life you do not accept. And as long as you do not forgive yourself, as long as you do not affirm your right to start anew, you keep repeating the old pattern. You cannot build a harmonious present with a mind that still punishes itself for the past. Forgiveness is liberation, cleansing, deep healing, and no one can do it for you. You don't need to ask the other person to listen. You don't need the other to change. You only need your mind and your willingness. You can enter right now the secret temple of your consciousness and declare, I forgive you, I forgive myself, I free myself. Not once, but as many times as necessary. Because true forgiveness sometimes requires repetition, like every new planting. And don't think that forgiving weakens you. On the contrary, it restores your power, restores you as a conscious creator, reintegrates you into the law of good. Because where there was once a wound, now there is room for a blessing. Where there was judgment, now there is understanding. Where there was stagnation, now there is flow. This is how forgiveness works, as a key that opens the channel where life flows again. Practical exercise, mental forgiveness ritual. Find a moment of silence, sit comfortably, close your eyes. Think of a person or situation that still causes you annoyance, sadness, anger, or discomfort. Visualize that person mentally in front of you. Breathe. Then say in your mind, I forgive you, I free you, I free myself. You are free, and so am I. Good acts now in both of us. Repeat this affirmation at least 3 times with conviction. If negative thoughts return during the day, repeat, this has already been forgiven. Good replaces it. Do this for 7 consecutive days. If necessary, continue longer. Do not be impatient. True forgiveness is not forgetting. It is a transformation of consciousness. And when you forgive, something in you straightens. Your energy field purifies. The law begins to respond more fluidly, and life gradually becomes lighter, brighter, freer. Because where there is forgiveness, God can work without obstacles. Chapter 9. Order your world with the living word. Your outer world is a direct reflection of your thoughts, and more specifically, of your words. The word is not just articulated sound. It is creative vibration, structured energy, will made manifest. Every time you speak, you are sowing a cause that by immutable law will produce its effect. Whether you bless or curse, affirm good or describe evil, proclaim health or declare sickness, you are using the creative power of the word, and that power never goes without action. In the beginning was the Word, says the Gospel of John. This does not refer to the creation story in historical terms, but to the universal law of creative thought expressed in the form of the Word. The Word is not only the chronological beginning, it is the structural principle of the mental universe. And you, created in the image and likeness of God, have that very faculty to order your world with the Word. However, most people speak without awareness. They speak from emotion, from habit, from criticism, from complaint. And then they are surprised when their lives reflect chaos, disorder, sickness, scarcity. But how can good manifest where a man has sown a curse? How can harmony bloom in an atmosphere of murmuring? How can there be peace where the word builds war, even if spoken kindly? The new Adam knows that every word is a tool of creation, not a metaphor, but a law in action. To speak is to decree. That is why he does not say, "I hope this will get better, but this improves now by the power of God in me." He does not say, "My situation is difficult, but the divine order manifests in this situation." He does not say, "I am exhausted, but the energy of God renews me right now," because he understands that the word is a living seed, and every seed by its nature seeks to manifest. Conscious use of the word begins with mental vigilance. You must observe what you say, how you say it, and from where you say it. Does what I say affirm truth or sustain illusion? Am I blessing, or am I reinforcing the problem? Am I speaking from the inner Christ or from human fear? This exercise is not repression. It is not about forcing language or disguising emotions. It is about choice. It is about forming a habit of elevated expression that builds rather than destroys, nourishes rather than drains, expands rather than confines. Because every word has a form, a weight, a vibration. And that vibration lodges in your mental field and sooner or later becomes external condition. Learning to speak from truth is also speaking from blessing. Where you once judged, now you bless. Where you once criticized, now you give thanks. Where you once commented on the problem, now you declare the solution. This is not denial of reality. This is conscious direction of the creative thought. It is recognizing that everything you name takes life in your world, and if you name evil, evil strengthens. But if you name good, you make it visible and powerful. Jesus never used his word to describe evil. He always used it to seal good. He did not say, "Lazarus is dead, and it is a tragedy." He said, "Lazarus, rise and walk." He did not say, "The storm is dangerous." He said, "Be still, be silent." He did not say, "What a sin this paralytic man has." He said, "Rise, take up your bed and walk." In every case, he used the word as a spiritual command. And so must you, not to impress, but to establish truth. The living word does not shout, does not impose, does not need theatricality. It is firm, clear, precise. It is like an arrow that goes straight to the center, and once spoken with faith, it activates the mental law and begins to build its form on the visible plane. It does not matter if you don't see it instantly. If it was spoken from Christ, if it was felt as truth, if it was held without contradiction, the word will fulfill its function. But beware, the word can also become an instrument of slavery. Every time you say, "I am clumsy, I can't, this never changes," you are building invisible walls around you. You are reinforcing the wrong idea. You are affirming an evil that has no substance outside your declaration. That is why the new Adam chooses his words as one chooses food, with awareness, intention, and respect for their power. And what to do when you have already spoken wrongly, when you have declared things you did not want? Do not fear, everything can be corrected. It is enough to contradict the false statement with a new true word. For example, if you said, "I'm so tired of this situation," say now, "Divine wisdom orders this situation into perfect harmony." If you said, "I never move forward," say now, "My path is guided by God and everything advances well." If you said, "There is no way out," say now, "The infinite good of God opens new doors for me." Mental correction is immediate. External manifestation may take time, but the change is already underway. The important thing is to maintain the new affirmation, sustain the new word, nurture the new pattern. Practical exercise, verbal cleansing and conscious reprogramming for the next 3 days. 1. Write down all the negative, limiting or automatic phrases that come from your mouth. Be honest. This is not about judging yourself, but recording. 2. Each night review the list and transform each phrase into its positive, true and spiritual equivalent. Write them on a new sheet. 3. Upon waking the next day, say aloud those transformed affirmations as decrees for your day. 4. During the day, if a negative phrase escapes, stop immediately and declare its correction mentally or quietly. This exercise trains your awareness to think before speaking and to speak from truth, not habit. Thus, you turn your mouth into an instrument of redemption, not repetition. And every word spoken from the Christ within you will be a seed of harmony, health, peace, and provision. The word is power, the verb is creator, and your world will be as beautiful and ordered as the words you choose to build it with. Chapter 10. Let silence be your inner chamber of creation. Silence is not the absence of sound. True silence is not merely the stillness of the mouth, nor external quiet. Spiritual silence is a state of consciousness, an inner atmosphere where human thought suspends and the voice of God can be heard. Not in audible words, but in clear, firm, pure impressions arising from the center of the soul. In that silence you do not think, you know. You do not formulate, you receive. You do not question, you recognize. Some fear silence because they confuse it with emptiness, loneliness, or abandonment. But silence is not absence. It is fullness without noise. It is the secret chamber where the soul enters to remember its origin, renew its strength, and align with the source. Silence is not rest, it is creation. Because in true silence you do not flee the world, you remake it from within. Every creative act begins in silence. Observe the seed in the soil. For days, weeks, it remains without noise, without agitation. But down there, in the invisible, life is working. The same happens in your consciousness. The deepest, most powerful, most effective work you can do is not what you do by speaking, running, or asking, but what you do when you still your mind and surrender to creative silence. Jesus deeply understood this. Enter your room and, closing the door, pray to your Father who is in secret, he taught. That room is not a physical chamber. It is the mental state of inner withdrawal, where external voices cease and real presence is activated. In that silence, prayer is not a series of phrases, but a mute and total affirmation of the good already present. And that kind of prayer is the most powerful because it springs from the spirit, not the intellect. The modern world exalts activity, noise, immediacy. But the soul needs silence, as the body needs nourishment. There is no lasting healing, no genuine inspiration, no sure guidance without moments of deep silence, because only in that space, without interference, can truth reveal itself as it is. And you can recognize what you already knew but had forgotten beneath the weight of your thoughts. Spiritual silence is not mental emptiness. It is not about thinking of nothing, as in some Eastern disciplines. It is about suspending personal thought and making room for divine thought. It is a temporary retreat from judgment, analysis, and comparison so that direct perception may emerge. It is not passivity, it is receptivity. It is not neutrality, it is alignment. And how does one enter this state? Not by force, but by willingness. Not with rigid techniques, but with attentive surrender. You can begin with a few minutes of stillness each day. Sit, close your eyes, and simply affirm, God is here. All is well. Repeat it softly, Let that idea settle. Don't seek results. Just be, just remain, like someone sitting in a garden allowing the fragrance of flowers to gently fill them. At first, the mind will make noise, recalling unfinished tasks, problems, images. Do not struggle, do not argue, just gently return to the center. Return to the simple thought that God is here and you are safe. Over time, the mind will quiet on its own, like a disturbed pond that regains clarity once left undisturbed. And in that clarity, solutions begin to arise, not as ideas you construct, but as answers that emerge. Questions that seemed hopeless resolve with a single intuition. Emotional conflicts dissolve without explanation. The body begins to relax. The heart finds rhythm. Life flows again. Not because anything outside has changed, but because you have returned to your center of power, silence. There are times when the best prayer is silence, not because you lack words, but because words would be insufficient. In those moments, simply sit, close your eyes, breathe, and witness. Feel the presence of God as a mantle that envelops you. Say nothing. Ask for nothing. Just be. That state alone is healing, guidance, creation in its purest form. Great spiritual masters were not men of many words. They were men of great silence because they understood that power is not in speech, but in the state of consciousness from which that speech arises. Words without inner silence are noise, but a single word spoken from the silence of the Christ within you has the power to change lives. The new Adam knows when to be silent, not as one who evades, but as one who creates, not as one who flees the world, but as one who transforms it from within. He speaks when truth compels him, is silent when truth guides him, and in both cases remains in God. Practical exercise, training in creative silence. For the next 7 days, dedicate at least 10 minutes daily to this exercise. Find a quiet place, sit comfortably, close your eyes, breathe deeply 3 times. Internally affirm without hurry, God is here, all is well, I am one with the good. Then keep silent, don't fight your thoughts, don't follow them. Let them pass. Whenever you notice distraction, gently repeat the affirmation. At the end, give thanks silently, then go on with your day without expectation. If practiced consistently, this exercise will open a new space within you, a center from which good can operate without interference, because in silence, God speaks, and when God speaks, creation renews itself at its root. Chapter 11. Spiritual Prosperity and Infinite Supply. Prosperity is a natural expression of divine order. It is not a luxury, not a prize, not an accident. It is a visible manifestation of the flow of good that already exists in the universe, waiting for those who know how to recognize it, receive it, and circulate it. Everything created by God is abundant. The universe does not operate by retention, but by expansion. The flower does not give a single seed, it gives hundreds. The tree does not produce just one fruit, but continuous harvests. The air is not rationed, the sun does not charge a fee. Only man disconnected from the source has invented the idea of scarcity. But that idea has no foundation in the principle. It is a mental distortion that must be corrected. Spiritual prosperity does not mean having a lot. It means knowing that nothing can be lacking because God is your source. It means living from the certainty that everything you need to fulfill your purpose is already provided, even if you do not see it yet. It means trusting that good manifests in its own way, in its own time, in the right form. If you are in alignment, prosperity is not a bank account, it is a state of consciousness. In the human world, people chase money, security, possessions, because they believe their well-being lies there. But that is living backwards. Spiritual truth teaches that the source of supply is not outside, it is in connection with the principle. What you see in your external world as provision is only the reflection of the image you hold in your mind. Change the internal image, the idea you have about abundance, about yourself, about God, and the outer world will have no choice but to reorganize. God is your infinite supplier. This is not a metaphor, it is a spiritual fact. God does not give to some and withhold from others. God does not measure, punish, or reward. Good flows always. The only point that determines the amount you receive is the channel you open from your consciousness. If you believe there is little, you close the channel. If you believe you do not deserve it, you narrow it. If you fear losing it, you block it. But if you know you are a child of a God who is all good, if you act as one who already has, if you give thanks before seeing, then the channel expands and the flow enters. The law of supply does not work by begging, but by recognition. As long as you keep seeing your income as the result of people, jobs, or situations, you will remain dependent on them. But when you understand that the only giver is God, and everything else is a temporary channel, you will be free. Free to receive from any direction. Free to not panic if one channel closes. Free to trust, not as a blind act, but as a conscious use of the law. Prosperity to manifest stably requires you to stop thinking from scarcity. Every time you say, "There's not enough," you are decreeing limitation. Every time you calculate with fear, you are sowing limitation. Every time you repeat, "This is difficult," you are blocking the passage of new forms of good. And this is not superstition. It is the exact functioning of the mind. You cannot attract what you are fearing. You cannot manifest what you are resisting. You must think, speak, and act as one already supported by a perfect source. A mind that desires prosperity, but keeps complaining about prices, the economy, or salary, is sending contradictory messages, and the law responds to the dominant vibration, not to momentary wishes. That is why it is necessary to do a deep cleaning of beliefs. Ask yourself, what do I really think about money? What did I hear in my childhood? What phrases do I repeat without noticing? What do I feel when I see others prosper? There you will find the root of your current experience, because prosperity does not begin in pockets, it begins in thought. And once abundance consciousness is established, it must be put into circulation. Accumulation out of fear blocks the flow. Generosity out of vanity contaminates it. But intelligent circulation guided by intuition expands the channel. Giving is not losing. Giving, when inspired by the Christ within you, is declaring that you trust, that you know what goes out returns multiplied, not because it is a technique, but because it is a law. Just as stagnant water rots, so good that does not move becomes an obstacle. Spiritual prosperity is dynamic. It is not meant to be stored, but to be used, shared, and to bless. You don't need to give large amounts. It is enough that everything that comes out of you, time, attention, words, money, ideas, is given from a consciousness of fullness. That is true wealth, knowing you can give because you do not fear running out. The new Adam does not beg, does not fear spending, does not idolize money, does not depend on the market, does not abase himself to receive. He lives knowing his provision comes from God, and no external power can cut it off because his channel is internal, his wealth is inward, and his authority is spiritual. Practical exercise, activation of the supply channel. For the next 5 days, practice this exercise each morning. Upon waking, firmly say aloud, "God is my source. Everything I need comes to me perfectly now." Make a list of 3 things you are grateful for regarding your current provision, even if they seem small. During the day, mentally bless everything you handle: bills, food, pending tasks, people who serve you. Say in your mind, "You are part of God's good. I bless you and let you flow." Give something to free your mind, a coin, a sincere compliment, your time to someone in need. Do it without expectation. At the end of the day, write down any sign of circulation of good, no matter how small. This exercise not only changes your vibration, it re-educates your mind to operate from eternal supply. And such a mind aligned with the infinite cannot experience scarcity, only continuous expansion, because God does not withhold, God always gives and gives through you. Chapter 12. Service as an expression of the Christ in you. True service is not effort, nor exhaustion, nor obligation. It is not forced renunciation or personal sacrifice. To serve is to let good flow through you. It is allowing the life of God to express itself in visible and useful ways through your actions, words, gestures, and thoughts. Serving is manifesting the Christ in every everyday detail, and when understood this way, service does not tire you, it strengthens you. It does not subtract, it multiplies. It does not chain, it liberates. In the human world, service has been misunderstood as submission, loss, or burden. But that is not spiritual service. That is mental slavery. When you serve from the ego expecting approval, reward, or redemption, you end up exhausted. But when you serve from the inner Christ without demand, without calculation, the very act becomes a channel of blessing for both you and the other. Service does not begin with great deeds. It begins where you are, with what you have. Every task, no matter how small it seems, can be elevated to an act of worship, if done consciously. When you do your daily work with presence, gratitude, and silent love, you are serving. When you give attention, listen without interrupting, clean without complaining, correct without condemning, you are allowing the Christ to act through you. Jesus did not live teaching from a temple or giving solemn speeches from palaces. He walked among the people, touched the sick, prepared food, washed feet. Every gesture was a lesson, every service a revelation. He asked for no conditions, no understanding. He simply allowed the good to flow uninterrupted. And that is why his life was so powerful, because he served from the beginning, not from emotion. Spiritual service is a direct expression of love in action. It is not sentimentality, it is divine intelligence operating through the human heart. And that love does not select, does not condition, does not wait. It loves because loving is its nature. It gives because giving is its nature. It serves because serving is its way of living. When you align with that principle, you stop seeking results. You simply act and let the good do the rest. Many people live closed within themselves, waiting to find meaning, purpose, and direction, and they don't find it because they have interrupted the flow. They have closed themselves off, but the soul was not made to contain. It was made to circulate the energy of good. Like a clogged pipe, life stops flowing when it focuses on receiving without giving, demanding without sharing, analyzing without acting. Service unlocks, breaks isolation, restores balance, because the moment you give, you are already receiving, not from outside, but from within. You feel the peace that comes from knowing you are useful, the strength that arrives when you overcome inertia, the guidance that arises when you empty yourself to let the Spirit do its work. And you don't need a spectacular mission. It is enough to ask yourself every morning, where can good express itself today through me? It may be in a kind look, timely advice, gentle correction, a job done with excellence, a word of encouragement, a listening silence. The kingdom of God is not built only in temples. It is built in everyday gestures consecrated to good. And if you ever feel that you serve and are not recognized, do not stop. The recognition that matters is not the world's, but the soul's. When you know you have acted as a channel of the Christ, you are already complete. Because the Christ does not seek reward. He acts because good is self-sufficient. And what you give from the Christ always returns multiplied, perhaps not from the person you helped, but from the universe that recognizes it and responds in higher ways. Service is also a form of prayer, not with words but with acts. When you serve in silence, with humility, you are saying, "Here I am, Lord, do your work in me." You are saying, "I do not seek to save myself. I am already saved, and that is why I serve." And that consciousness of fullness in giving opens the doors to supply, peace, health, and guidance. The new Adam does not ask, "What do I gain from this?" but "How can I be useful today?" because he knows his function is not to accumulate, but to manifest the fullness of God on earth. And he does so without forcing, preaching, or imposing, just living with authenticity, coherence, and intention. The world does not need more speeches. It needs more human beings willing to be channels of good. Your role does not matter, your age does not matter, your history does not matter. If you are alive, you have something to give, and by giving it you align yourself with the eternal purpose God intended for you. Practical exercise. Daily conscious service. For the next 7 days, practice this exercise each morning. 1. Upon waking, say aloud or mentally, "Christ in me, express yourself today through my actions." 2. Consciously choose one simple act of service for the day. Help someone without being asked. Correct with kindness instead of judgment. Listen to someone with full attention. Improve your work with an extra touch of excellence. 3. Do it without expecting reward or recognition. Do it silently, knowing you are fulfilling your part in the divine plan. 4. At the end of the day, write down how you felt doing it. Do not analyze, just record. This exercise transforms your view of the world because where there was routine now appears opportunity, where there was burden now appears purpose, and where you once felt isolated, you recognize you are part of the perfect flow of love that sustains the universe. To serve is to manifest the kingdom here and now, and every time you do, God expresses himself a little more fully on earth through you. Chapter 13. Your life is the temple of the Spirit. The great lie that has perpetuated spiritual ignorance is the idea that there is a part of life that is spiritual and another that is material, that some actions have value before God and others are trivial or profane, that the body is a burden and the soul a distant ideal. This false division has created guilt, tension, confusion, and disorder, but the inner Christ reveals a simple and radiant truth. Your whole being is sacred. Your entire life is a temple. Everything you do can be an expression of the Spirit. Your body is the perfect instrument that breathes, moves, touches, transforms. It is the vehicle of the Spirit. It is not a punishment, a burden, or a trap. It is a channel. And like every channel, it reflects what is transmitted through it. When your consciousness is aligned with the good, your body becomes a living manifestation of harmony, beauty, and health. Not by magic, but by correspondence. Not by force, but by vibration. Your mind, the space where images, judgments, desires, and memories form, is the altar where your world is built. There is no prayer more powerful than a thought sustained in truth. There is no deeper meditation than a mental habit soaked in Christ. Each time you choose to think with order, love, and faith, you consecrate your mind. And in that consecrated mind, God can act without obstacles. Your relationships are not accidents. They are mirrors, training grounds, channels for the expression of love. Every person who enters your life is an opportunity to reveal the Christ within you. Not because everyone behaves as you wish, but because you decide to respond from your divine center. Love does not mean allowing abuse or masking the truth. It means seeing beyond appearances and affirming the spiritual identity of the other, even if they do not yet recognize it. Your finances, your possessions, your work, your resources, these too are part of the temple. There is no authentic spirituality that despises the concrete. The gold of the temple was consecrated not for its material but for its purpose. Likewise, your money can be a vehicle of good if you use it consciously, without attachment, fear, or idolatry. You can stop, give, receive, and manage as acts of faith, order, and expansion. And in that act, God also expresses himself. You did not come to this earth to deny the world, but to transfigure the world from within. It is not about withdrawing from life, but redeeming it from your center. The new Adam does not lock himself in caves. He walks the streets, works, converses, acts, but all from an elevated consciousness. He does not divide between Monday and Sunday, between prayer and action, between temple and home. Every place is consecrated when you are aware of the Christ within you. Each day can be a liturgy, not with incense but with intention, not with empty rituals, but with acts full of meaning. Rising with gratitude, working with excellence, speaking with care, resting with peace. All of that is worship because it expresses that you know who you are, where you come from, and what your role is, to manifest the kingdom on earth here and now in every detail. When you look in the mirror, you are not just seeing a face. You are seeing the vessel of the Spirit. When you prepare your food, you are not fulfilling a routine. You are sustaining life. When you correct your child, you are not imposing control. you are forming consciousness. When you talk to a stranger, you're not passing time, you are sowing vibration. If you do it from Christ, that encounter becomes revelation. If from ego, it is repetition. The temple is not in Jerusalem. The temple is not a religious building. The temple is you, your life, your body, your home, your street. Every space you inhabit is consecrated if you consecrate it with your conscious presence. You don't need to do extraordinary things. You only need to remember moment by moment that you are here to express God. And that changes everything. When you walk through life with that consciousness, you no longer need to seek God because God is in every gesture you make from love, in every thought you correct from faith, in every word you choose with intention. God is not far away. He is expressing himself in you, and you are his chosen form. Practical exercise, conscious consecration of your day. For the next 7 days, do this exercise each morning. Upon waking, sit quietly and say mentally, "This life is the temple of God. Everything I think, say, and do today will be a sacred act." Choose one routine activity, showering, eating, walking, working, and perform it with full awareness as if it were a ceremonial act. Do it without rush, without distraction, with gratitude. When finished, say quietly or internally, "This too has been prayer." Each night, mentally review your day and give thanks for every moment when you felt you lived from Christ. Do not judge, just recognize. This exercise transforms your life without needing to change it, because you do not need another life, just another way of seeing it. And when you see your existence as the temple where God dwells and expresses himself, everything makes sense, everything falls into place, and everything fills with light. You are the living altar of the Spirit, and your life, just as it is the exact form God chose to reveal himself to the world. Consecrate it, inhabit it, live it with intention, because there is no other place, no other time, no other body, no other story. This is the kingdom, and you are its visible manifestation. Amen.